Let's also welcome in now Harvard Law School Professor Emeritus and author of Get Trump, Alan Dershowitz, for more reaction to this. Professor Dershowitz, great to see you.
Thank you.
So I wanted to get your reaction to the David Weiss appointment as special counsel, and how, if any way, do you think this changes things for the Hunter Biden investigation moving forward?
Well, when you're investigating the son of the president, you better dot every I and cross every T. You don't start by breaking the law, and you don't start by violating regulations. The regulations don't say that a person outside might be, should be, could be appointed. It says shall be appointed. That means must be appointed. So it should have been somebody outside. What I'm afraid of is that this special counsel is going to just try to justify his earlier deal, which I predicted was not going to be accepted. And I predicted it correctly. And there should be somebody who has had no connection to this case to start from scratch. He could be obviously using the material that's been uncovered by the previous counsel, a U.S. attorney from Delaware, but independent eyes must eventually make the decision and write the report to the Attorney General. And I don't understand why they didn't follow the law and follow it to a T. That really creates an appearance of injustice, which I think is now permeating our whole system to the disadvantage of all Americans.
I would say this is not the first example to what you're just speaking of there. And that was my follow-up question to you. We have David Weiss being chosen for this. I would imagine there is a probably pretty deep pool of qualified potential special counsels that they could have chosen from, that Merrick Garland could have picked for this to avoid the appearance of impropriety.
What you need is somebody who has an experience in criminal law, who has experience in government. There are hundreds of qualified people. And especially I'm concerned about the home cooking in Delaware. Delaware is well known for its home cooking. It's a very small state, and people know each other. And the special counsel investigating the Biden family and the son of Biden should not come from Delaware, should come from California, or should come from some other part of the country, and should have no official previous contact with this investigation. So I'm very concerned about it. You know, maybe it'll prove to be fine. Maybe he's found new stuff, which is why he's thrown out the deal and wants to bring the case to the Central District of California. That's all possible, and I want to assume good faith. But the appearance of justice is so important in a case like this, and the appearance of justice is not satisfied when the appointment is in violation of the rule. And I think this gives Congress much more authority to start questioning Garland, to start questioning Weiss, and not to accept the notion, well, it's under investigation. That's not a constitutional barrier to checks and balances. The Constitution gives Congress the power to investigate the executive branch. And they ought to issue subpoenas immediately to the participants and let them object and take it to court. I think the courts would rule in favor of Congress in this case.
That was my question for you. Do you anticipate some sort of breakdown if that happens? The subpoenas get issued, David Weiss refuses to show up and testify, there's contempt of Congress, and then it falls back in the lap of Merrick Garland then to proceed with any kind of enforcement of that contempt of Congress. Am I mistaken there?
You're not mistaken, but there's a lot of pressure on an attorney general when a congressional committee issues subpoenas and they are violated to do something about it. And at least in the court of public opinion, it can play a very, very important role. So Congress has to be aggressive and tough in this area, particularly when the attorney general did not play by the rules, did not appoint the person who should have been appointed under their own regulations, their own department regulations.
This is something that you and I have talked about for years, something that you've written extensively about, and something that you raised a red flag during the first impeachment of Donald Trump, that you were worried that we were going to see this ongoing, never-stopping cycle of political prosecutions. As I was talking about with Mr. Marino, we now have we're going to have criminal trials for the president's son, the current president's son, and the former president, basically playing out over this the same period. In all your years of legal experience, Professor Dershowitz, could you have ever conceived a situation like the one we're in right now?
No, and I grew up during McCarthyism when it was pretty bad, but I could never conceive that it would get to the point where an election would be determined by who's the worst criminal. And that's not what the American people want to hear. The American people want our system of justice to be non-political and to be fair. And the trial in the District of Columbia is the worst example of this. Picking a venue which is 95% anti-Trump, picking a judge who has a terrible background in terms of what firm she worked for. Hunter Biden was part of that firm. Burisma was a client. The firm has been disqualified for conflict of interest more than any other firm. And the American public is just not going to be satisfied with justice was done. Now we have a new development. We have a couple of professors from the Federalist Society who say that Trump's disqualified from running for president under the 14th Amendment. That's not true, but there are efforts. That's why I entitled my book, Get Trump. This is an attempt to do anything possible to get Trump without regard to the Constitution, without regard to the regulations, without regard to the rule of law, and without regard to basic justice. And it's terrible. This coming from a liberal Democrat who wants to see Trump defeated legitimately. I have a constitutional right to vote against him for the third time. And I don't want that right to be taken away from me any more than I want your right to vote for him, if you want to be taken away from you. It should be up to the American public, not up to bureaucrats, jurors, judges, and attorneys general.
Yeah, I think when the American public lays their head on their pillows at night, they're not thinking about politics, but they do want the system to be fair for everyone. And I think with all of this, there's a perception that's not the case right now. Professor Dershowitz, always great to talk to you. Thank you.
My pleasure. Thank you.